In this video, we're going to look at the most common questions that tourists are asked by the Home Office, either at the border or in visit visa interviews. And so we're going to start by looking at how immigration officers actually think. And so they're making a decision whether they grant you entry or a visa or they reject. And so they're going to grant a visa if they are confident that you will follow the rules, that you will return at the end of your visit, because visit visas do not in any case lead to settlement, and that during their time in the UK, you're not going to spend any public funds. They're not going to have to pay to get you out of the country, and they're not going to have to pay to accommodate you during your stay. That the taxpayer is going to be unaffected by your visit. They're going to reject your visit visa if your answers are not believable, if they don't believe that you are a genuine tourist, or that they believe that you intend to work or settle permanently in the UK. So you want to be showing them all the things on the grant list, and you want them to be confident that none of the things on the reject list apply to you. And if you can do that, you're likely to be successful. There is some reasons why people fail visa interviews. So to be successful, you have to make sure that you're not hitting any of these points. So a lack of preparation. So for example, saying things like, I just want to see some sights without actually having planned it. So if you're flying to the UK from abroad and traveling thousands of miles, they are expecting a much better answer than that. If you are dishonest, that's going to be a big problem. So if your application and your interview don't match up, that is going to be a major obstacle to you getting into the country. If you've got very poor evidence, so all my income is in cash, you can't evidence anything, you can't back anything up, and you don't have the numbers to hand with a reasonable level of understanding, that's going to be a big problem. Likewise, if you're missing obvious details, for example, you're not entirely sure where your sponsor lives, classic thing where they ask very simple questions and you just can't answer it. So make sure you've got all the key facts to hand. And fundamentally, if they are not sure that you will leave after your visit on the timetable that you suggest, they are going to not approve your visa. So if you were to say something like, I'll work with my aunt, that's saying you're planning to settle and you're applying for the wrong visa, and therefore you shouldn't be granted that visa. Key question: are you planning to work while visiting the UK? They're guaranteed to ask a question along these lines. And thankfully for you, the answer is very simple. The answer is no. If you would like to work in the UK, you have to apply for a different visa. Visit visas are a tourism or visiting family type visa. They do not give you any rights to work. So the answer must be no. If it's not no, apply for a different visa. So let's look at a different question. How will you support yourself in the UK without recourse to public funds? So when you're on a UK visit visa, you have no right to claim any sort of benefits and you have to pay for everything yourself. And in order to prove that, you have to match up what you have and what you need. So you've got your sponsor who might be providing accommodation. You might not have a sponsor, so you're going to have to show that you can afford the accommodation yourself. You've got savings, and if you're still in employment, you can say that you've got leave from your employer and that you're going to be getting a salary paid weekly or monthly that you're going to be able to have access to. And that total of your what you've got as assets, should exceed what you need in terms of flights, which you may already have booked, and maintenance. You don't have to have booked flights, but you do have to show that you can afford them. And if the balance is tipped in the right way, you'll be fine on this question. And just make sure that you can demonstrate that with some rough numbers. So moving on, how long do you plan to stay in the UK? There's a very simple way to answer this, which is honestly, and you're going to say exactly what you said before. So when you filled in the application form and it asked you how long are you visiting for, and then you're asked the same question in the interview, the answers have to match up. Otherwise, one of the answers is dishonest. And then once you've answered that, you're going to explain why. So if you're saying you're coming for 3 months, that's going to be a very different explanation as to why you're coming for one week. And so you've got to explain why you're coming for that duration. And if you can't explain that, that's going to be a problem. There has to be some rationale. If you're applying particularly for a very long duration, up to 6 months, you're going to need a much better explanation because those get slightly more scrutiny. And the last question is, where will you live while you're in the UK? And there's a very simple process to answer this that satisfies entry clearance officers, and that is that your accommodation should be available, affordable, and appropriate. So you have to prove that the accommodation that you're going to have is reasonably available. So if it's a hotel, you're going to prove that you can afford it. And if it is staying with family, you're going to show that the family have actually invited you and they are happy. So you would ideally have a letter of invitation. You have to show that it's affordable, that you can actually afford it. So you're going to look at your salary or your savings and show that I can easily afford this. And if you're coming with your family, and there's quite a few of you, you want to have some sort of evidence that it's actually appropriate. So if you are coming with 6 children and staying with a family member who's got a 2-bedroom house, that's not appropriate. So if you can satisfy those 3 requirements, they will be satisfied that you've got appropriate accommodation in the UK. So hopefully this video has been very helpful to you. I wish you the best of luck should you be interviewed by the Home Office. And finally, thank you very much for watching.